A senior Israeli official telling Fox News the head of intelligence for the IRGC has been killed, and at the same time, another commander of a special operations unit was taken out. Meanwhile, the daring rescue of a seriously wounded airman is being hailed as a success story. The U.S. military saving the second airman of the F-15 jet shot down in Iran over the weekend. The crew member surviving for almost 48 hours behind enemy lines, climbing over 7,000 feet to hide in a mountain crevice. The airman activating an emergency beacon armed with only a pistol for survival. That pilot recovered on Friday. Now, U.S. Central Command still striking Iran as President Trump warns Iran to make a deal in 48 hours or, quote, we're blowing up the whole country. President said, quote, Tuesday will be power plant and bridge day, and then warning seriously to reopen the strait. President Trump teasing the Tuesday at 8 p.m. ultimatum deadline on Truth Social. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal reports that the U.S. and regional mediators are pushing for a 45-day ceasefire that could lead to a permanent end to the conflict. The Journal says chances are slim. I want to bring in Florida Congressman Brian Mast. He chairs the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Mr. Chairman, your thoughts, good morning to you, sir, on everything that you have seen play out over the weekend.
Just number one, of course, nothing but praise for the men and women that brought our downed pilot home. It's just a testament to how we operate. We do not leave our men behind. That's what's different about the United States of America. Maybe going second to that proposal coming in by Pakistan. It's a demonstration that there are many that are sitting at tables trying to say, how can we work this out still by negotiations? And America is still willing to look at what can be negotiated. We're going to continue to strike things until that point. Do I see what Pakistan has put forward to be incredibly likely? Not very. They're looking for a release of frozen assets. I don't see that as something that takes place anytime soon. That's more of a regime change kind of conversation when you have actually a regime that's not looking to hit every American, every Israeli, every Arab across the region. When there is actually, maybe an embassy and there is peace in the region, then you can have a conversation like that. It's the big sticking point on what Pakistan has put forward just recently. So I don't see that as extremely likely, but very positive day in bringing home our pilot.
And Chairman, of course, you are a military veteran yourself. Thank you for your service. And I do want to get your take because, the Wall Street Journal says this, a daring rescue inside Iran. The mission, more evidence of the U.S. military's competence and bravery. The president did put out his fiscal proposal for 2027, and there's $1.5 trillion in there for the military on top of that $200 billion ask that's sitting right now in front of you and your colleagues for funding, more funding for the military. Talk about the need for this money on the heels of the fact that we did lose two C-130s, if I'm not mistaken, over the weekend as well in the rescue operation. So, these are multi-million-dollar pieces of machinery and equipment. The mission was a success, but these missions are costly.
Very costly. The United States of America, our military, what it brings to bear, our capabilities that very literally nobody else has. It's why it's on the table right now discussing what's going on with our bases in Europe. That's why it's such a big conversation, because we bring things to bear that Europeans, quite frankly, in many cases, they don't. Same thing throughout Asia. We bring capabilities that they don't bring to bear, and everybody's seeing that play out in the Middle East right now. That's what the president is looking to make sure has the highest amount of strength. What we bring to bear in those military capabilities that nobody else can. And that also means in a transitioning battlefield with many things related to drone warfare, technology warfare related to AI, and how all of that integrates with one another. It's not just the same conventional pieces that we've seen, your F-22s, your F-35s, your carriers, things like that. It's what you need to defend against that, what you need to utilize that for attack. The warfare is changing. We need to make sure that we're continually at the forefront of that.
Yeah, certainly, Maria has been doing extensive coverage on these drones and the capabilities and this next phase, I think, of drone technology that we're going to be using in modern warfare. And I think the other thing that I thought was fascinating about the weekend was the fact that it really did show that we can go deep into Iranian territory and enemy territory. And the Iranians now know that, and they are unable to use those airmen in what could have been a horrific outcome on the other side of this. So it's been an incredible operation, and our thanks, of course, to the men and women that are protecting our nation. I do want to get your take on the business at hand with you and your colleagues right now, because House and Senate Republicans are scrambling to end the longest partial federal shutdown in U.S. history. As the Department of Homeland Security remains closed for its 52nd day, lawmakers now calling on House Speaker Johnson to bring the lower chamber back from recess Both chambers not scheduled to return until the week of April 13th. Here's House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries yesterday on the shutdown.
Well, the first thing that needs to happen is that the House of Representatives, under the leadership of Speaker Johnson, and Republicans need to bring us back into session so we can actually reopen the Department of Homeland Security, stop creating chaos at airports all across the country, and forcing people, including what happened to TSA agents for weeks, to work without pay.
You know, on Friday, President Trump ordered the Department of Homeland Security to pay all employees. The presidential memo restores paychecks to more than 35,000 workers who've gone unpaid since mid-February. TSA call-out rates reaching about 7% nationwide, but that's down 43% since the president signed that executive order, Chairman. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that. And also, you know, there's this piece in the Hill today about kind of all the behind-the-scenes, problems that we're seeing really within your party. And the Hill writes that it's Republican divisions and Trump's detachment that is hurting these efforts to reopen the Department of Homeland Security right now.
Just one, thank God that President Trump, through EO, is going out there and funding, whether it's people in TSA, Coast Guard men and women, Secret Service men and women, the list goes on and on, people that work for FEMA. All of those are entities that weren't willing to be funded by what Democrats had put forward in the past. So that's something that's important that President Trump did. My personal take on this, I think it's very unlikely that you get anything to move through the House that doesn't include funding for border security. And juxtapose that, it's very unlikely that you get anything to move through the Senate that does include funding for border security. And that's the impasse that you have everybody at right now. President Trump has said, look, he would like to see something move forward in budget reconciliation. That probably won't take place until sometime closer to the end of May. And that's why it's so important that he is funding everybody right now. There are conversations continually going back and forth on how to do this through a lawmaking exercise, not just an executive order, to get everybody funded. But I can't pretend that we're there right now.
So the two-step process, the reconciliation, you're saying end of May. That means, though, that you're going to have the Department of Homeland Security continue, correct me if I'm wrong, still be shut down when you've got, it's not just TSA, it's also CISA, as we've got these major events happening on the homeland. You've got America 250, you've got the FIFA World Cup. That's cybersecurity, so how do you reconcile all of that? Because the American people and, frankly, the employees at DHS are getting more and more frustrated as this continues.
No, and that's exactly, again, why it's so important that President Trump put this EO in place that is funding everybody. Even though there are lawmaking exercises, they're not being funded. They're funded through an executive order. That is very important. It's getting people back to work, as you mentioned. Again, can I sit here and tell you that there's going to be the largest umbrella of federal workers, Homeland Security, huge umbrella? Yes, it needs to be funded. All of those people that I pointed out, that you pointed out, that are not just TSA workers, everybody needs to get that paycheck. But without funding border security, immigrations, customs enforcement, border security, I just don't see it moving through the House. And again, with it, you don't see it moving through the Senate right now. That is the impasse. And I can't tell you that anybody has found a way through that at this point. I'd just be lying to you if I said that.
Yeah, no, we don't want that. But certainly, so you don't see the House coming back this week at all? Slim chance.
I see it as a slim chance that the House comes back this week. I'd love to be there. Happy to be in Washington, D.C. working. Always happy to be at home with my people. But, if we were there working on this outside of an executive order taking place to fund people in Homeland Security, that would be outstanding. But I don't see that being the case until come next Monday.
Well, Chairman, again, we always appreciate your time. We appreciate your service. And thank you so much for being with us. Thank you, sir. Congressman Brian Mast.